All right, take 3. Hello, my name's Trevor, and I am the owner, creator of Grain-Free Me, a celiac and diabetic safe cottage food business in Fremont, Nebraska. I started this journey back in 2019 after being sick my entire life. I've had medical issues that no one could explain. I'm 50 now, going on 51 in a couple of weeks, and my entire life was spent dealing with hypoglycemia, seizures, fatigue that wasn't explainable. I couldn't keep up with the rest of the kids. I was, skin and bones with a huge belly my entire life, up until a couple of years ago. And once I had to go through 28 different doctors and specialists. It was like 108 different blood draws, MRIs, CT scans, X-rays. I really, if I would have just let the doctors do what they wanted to do, I'd be dead today. Due to high triglycerides and the lack of testing that doctors have. I got referred to everybody: rheumatology, psychology, the works. I went through every single aspect to, figure out. And the one good thing that I had was that being as sick as I was, I got up in the morning and I researched. I went through, and I've been doing that research my entire life because I got sick. I think it would have been like 1984. I was 7 or 8 years old, second or third grade. I started having really bad issues with reactive hypoglycemia, and couldn't explain it, didn't understand it, wasn't in any of the medical encyclopedias that I had access to back then. And eventually it never, before the internet. Think about that. Before the internet, you couldn't go online. You had to go to a library, and the only real aspect at the library was picking up a medical journal. And, then you have to read through the medical journals, and it wasn't anything like we have with the internet today. So if you look up celiac disease and hereditary fructose intolerance and ME/CFS, which is the other condition that I suffer from and deal with on a daily basis, none of it. There were studies, yes, back from the 1950s, but it never made it into mainstream medical documentation. So if you went to a family practice doctor and said, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, that doctor wouldn't have a clue. They just, first thing they tell you is, oh, let's do these tests. Well, none of that's going to show anything. And what are they going to tell you from there? Well, we could try these drugs, because that's what they get paid to do. I wasn't having it. I said no drugs. Something is causing this. Something has always caused this. And some medication isn't going to treat it. So do whatever you have to do. Blood work, MRIs, CT, x-rays. Tell me what's going on. And it was only because of my persistence that I figured out. Doctors didn't. Doctors did not figure out what was wrong with me. I figured it out on my own. And none of them, you know, it all fell into, that's not in my wheelhouse. I can't help you anymore. I heard that from the majority of the doctors. I did find a couple, an infectious disease doctor that was very interested in what I was dealing with, and a cancer specialist that I got referred to right off the bat because of my high ferritin and iron levels in my bloodstream. But even he, you know, I mean, Joel was great. He would sit down with me when I'd come in, and we would talk about my symptoms. And I would say, hey, I researched this. What about this? Is there a test we can do to rule this out? I've been a mechanic, a musician, a artist, a father, and home repair, you know, construction, and general contractor. My entire life has been about fixing things. So to go into a doctor and tell them, here's my symptoms, here's the test that I want you to run, and to have them say, no, we can't run that, no, we won't run that, is like taking your car to a mechanic with a flat tire and them saying, well, it's your blinker fluid. That's what I dealt with. 28 different fucking doctors. Excuse the language. So I'm trying to figure out where to get started, because I've got a 78-year-old mom. I just lost my dad in September of 2023. And my mom and everybody else that I've talked to really thinks it's important that I share my story with other people, because I've learned so much about medicine, not just in the last couple of years, but my entire life. I mean, when you start having seizures and reactive hypoglycemia when you're 7 or 8 years old, you know, that was a long time ago. And I feel like I've learned so much over the last few years that was never available to the public. But now it is, and in all my research, I feel that it's very, very important that I get this out there and share it with other people. I'm just not used to this. It's hard to talk to a camera, and I'm hoping that eventually this will kind of turn into a podcast, possibly, that I can bring in other people that have dealt with these issues their entire life, mainly focusing on people my age, 45 to 60, because this kind of what I'm dealing with runs in my family. And in my research, when I've looked into genetics, other people have entire families that deal with this the same way I do. And it's not a one-off kind of situation. This isn't some weird cancer or something along those lines that nobody else understands. You can talk to anybody in my family and they're like, yep, I've got constant diarrhea, constant bloating, aches and pains that aren't normal, migraine headaches. Certain foods just affect me more than others. And doctors prescribe medication for it that never helps. I'm hoping that I can find enough. I've been saving all of these medical journals that I've read over the last 5-6 years. And I'm so totally new to this video online aspect. I'm trying to figure out the software, trying to figure out the background, trying to figure out how to talk to a camera versus another person. And I hope that just a couple of people might find this and follow along, subscribe, stay in touch, give me some feedback as to what they've been dealing with. I would like to turn this into a full-blown podcast down the road of what it's like to go through 28 different doctors and specialists and have been sick for 40 years and never have been able to find a solution to it. Because in most cases, the people I have talked to in chat room forums heard the same stuff I did. We'll give you some antidepressants, put you on Xanax, put you on some painkillers. Not a single one of them could say why. Why am I feeling like this? And these are things I want to go into in more detail down the road. But tonight I just kind of wanted to get online, take that chance, put this out there. And because you've got to take that first step. I can record this 100 times for myself, but until I put it online, it doesn't do anything to help me or help others. So I think I'm going to leave it right there for this minute, and I might be back later with some other information. Maybe read through celiac disease, maybe share some of the articles, maybe share hereditary fructose intolerance description, CFS. It's just the beginning, and got to start somewhere. So, forgive me for the fact that I don't have a great camera face, and the fact that I'm 50 years old and just getting started. I have no background in doing anything online. So I guess we'll leave it there. I say a lot. I need to stop that. The one thing I can promise, though, is that anything that I post here, I will try to back up with actual NIH, PubMed, and CDC articles. I don't talk about anything that I heard through the grapevine. The only stuff I talk about has actually been researched. You might not be able to find it on a regular basis, but the research that I talk about is out there. And that's, to me, the most important thing. Growing up working on cars and houses, I wouldn't tell somebody to put a spark plug in a muffler. You know, that just, or to put oil in your antifreeze container. There's people that suffer with similar conditions that want that easy fix. They want a pill they can take that just makes everything better. In my case, that's not something available. Celiac disease. You have to stop eating grains. Period. You have to be careful with even whole foods. Whole foods, because they use certain processing that gluten and gluten similar proteins are used in processing. The hereditary fructose intolerance that I deal with, that's really hard because my body cannot process sugar. Fructose in particular. I'm fine with glucose. But it's really hard to find anything that just has straight up glucose. It's actually used quite commonly in bakeries, but processed foods, no. It's going to be corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, palm kernel oil, palm oil, blah, blah, blah. All of those things are deadly to me. And mostly for diabetics too, because, normal people, healthy people, can't process as much fructose as we're getting in everyday items. ME/CFS, that is a horribly debilitating disease. They changed the name on it a few years ago to chronic fatigue syndrome, but that doesn't really explain what's going on in our body. There was a recent article, when my dad passed in 2023 that I missed because my dad passed. It went into so much detail about how Epstein-Barr virus, people my age used to call that the kissing disease when we were younger, because we always seemed to get it when we were in high school and junior high. Great article. First time I've read anything that really nailed down how that might be causing these issues. And then there was another one just a week ago talking about how they tested a certain amount of ME/CFS patients versus people without ME/CFS, and Epstein-Barr virus was just prevalent. Didn't show up in the blood, but if you hacked up a lung in the morning, it was showing high levels of Epstein-Barr virus. So we have a lot of stuff to talk about that I'm hoping to share with you all. I just don't know how to do it. I'm gonna be rough. I'm not polished at this at all. So I hope you guys stick around. Feel free to shoot me some questions. Negative comments I'll just block. So don't waste your time or mine. but I will try to respond to every serious question and comment that I can. But try to remember, I'm just one person. I don't have a crew of 10 people here working with me. And I'm also trying to take care of my, 78-year-old mom and my kid. And, yeah. Thanks for sticking around this long. A little bit longer than I wanted to be on this first video, but like I said, I'm just learning. So, have a good night, guys.